Tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Clint, how are you?
I'm good.
We just had some enchilada groceries delivered, so I'm excited to make that today. You're getting ready to leave me for a few days. That's going to suck. And today we're kind of getting a head start on some things that just need to be taken care of today. And it's wild because our weather is going to be like 59 degrees one day this week, and then it goes up to like almost 90, which is crazy. But I think that we're finally in the midst of spring after that.
Yeah, it's all the chemtrails and their weather modifications that have been happening.
We've seen a lot of snakes so far.
But luckily, they haven't been rattlesnakes. They've been like gopher snakes or red racers and those types of snakes.
Our neighbor, though, saw a rattlesnake already. So, yeah, wish us luck with that, you guys. You know, it was so cool because yesterday I got tagged in a post, and the post was from another person in the first responder space, and she had posed a question of like, who do you know that is doing really great things in the first responder realm? And I got tagged in it from somebody in my Facebook group. And I thought it was just so flattering and so cool. And I went down the list to see, like, is there anybody else here that I need to connect with and then to just be friends with? And that led me down a rabbit hole. And one of those rabbit holes led me to somewhere where it's talking about just the fail rates when it comes to first responder marriages and how they could be a lot higher than just your standard marriage. And so I thought that we can kind of touch on a little bit about that today.
I think it's one of those things where I think, especially nowadays, you start seeing more and more officers talking about, oh, well, the divorce rate is so much higher. But like, I'm going through a lot of my partners and a lot of people who I've worked with for a really long time, and I don't know anymore. I don't know a lot of officers who have been in like long lasting relationships who have gone through the divorce process or anything like that. Like, because they're having that healthy work-life balance and they're creating that environment to separate those two, but at the same time bring them together. Like you do, inevitably, you will see that. I mean, any agency, any situation, you're going to see people go through divorces, or they're going to go through those hard times, whether it's their issue or the spouse's issue, whatever it may be. But for me, within our organization, I don't see it near as much as what I ever thought I would have.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a few couples in your department, and I'm thinking about just officers that I had known that were single, and then they finally got into a relationship and married and had kids, or the ones that had already been divorced and then they got into new marriages that are still withstanding, right? And I think that a lot of that too could boil down to the friends that you're partaking in relationships with, right? Like, that's something that you are saying and that you're seeing. But then I also have other couples that are coming to mind that maybe I don't know personally, but I know them from relation of working at your department that have split up, and you know that does exist at your department. And I think the reason why it might not be coming to the forefront for you is because we try our best. And even if you try your best to surround yourself with couples that are like-minded and, you know, that have the same values and morals, it still doesn't mean that, you know, something might happen between that couple.
Yeah, and I think, and it's funny, like the two people that come specifically to mind with them going through divorces and stuff, they got married very young, and then it was a really, really unhealthy relationship. in their like first year or two from the other half of their relationship. And it's unfortunate, like they learned so much from that time frame and their misery, unfortunately, during that instance, to where now they're both in successful relationships and have been together with their spouses for a long time. And there are definitely others, but it's something too, is I don't associate with those people that I don't want to necessarily, because they don't hold my same values or anything like that. I stay away from them.
Yeah. And, that can be even habits like drinking, right? Mm-hmm. And, not to judge, it's just not a part of our lifestyle. And so anybody who tries to challenge the notion that being married, in a first responder relationship is not any more different than any other relationship of somebody who is of any other career type, has never been in a relationship with a first responder. And it's because the job creates conditions that quietly erode connection, communication, and even emotional availability over time. And I think that most couples don't recognize what's happening until that damage runs too deep.
Yeah, and I think that's why, especially with the communication aspect of it, it's being able to incorporate your spouse into the conversations of what's going on at work, and incorporating them into the kind of decision-making mindset of, okay, well, this is the pathway I want to go. What are your thoughts on it? And it's a partnership. It's not a team of one.
First responder marriages are so vulnerable. They just are. A lot more vulnerable, I think, than your traditional relationship. And the reason why is because of a psychological concept called cumulative relational erosion. And it occurs when you have these repeated small disconnections and missed moments and emotional unavailability and unprocessed stress. And then communication is going to break down over time. And if you don't implement ways to be able to make sure that that doesn't happen, there is no way for it to get better. It's only going to get worse.
And I think that's what it comes to our daily habits with anything and everything that we do, is incorporating those healthy daily habits to be able to share that time and space with your spouse, with your kids and your loved ones, to be able to start harboring that relationship more. And I think that's where, especially as first responders, we start neglecting that over time, because you're being in the law enforcement realm or the first responder, it's exciting. It's always go, go, go. You have all this stuff going on all the time, and you feel like you're moving beyond this normal family dynamic instead of bringing them with you.
I think that unlike a single traumatic event that couples can point to and then address, cumulative erosion is this gradual and often invisible aspect of a relationship until that relationship is already in serious trouble. And for first responder marriages, the job creates the perfect condition for this kind of slow damage.
And I think too, we can list shift work, we can list days off, we can list all these different avenues of why this is happening, instead of looking at that internal kind of monologue of, okay, how are we bridging this gap? And especially when it comes to shift work, I mean, like last year I was on graveyard, but it was, Ashley was so amazing with being able to like incorporate me, like that kicked the crap out of me, but she incorporated me into that and brought me out of this I'm working graveyard and she's working throughout the day, and we still found that time to be together and to share that time and space with one another.
I think that there are a lot of reasons why first responder marriages are so vulnerable. And yes, of course, that shift work is definitely one of the leading causes to it. But the job takes so much emotional availability away that the marriage actually needs instead. And you have unprocessed trauma that is going to get brought home. And without either partner realizing it and then addressing it, the marriage is going to absorb what the job creates.
And that includes you're coming home, turning on the TV, scrolling on your phone and not talking to anybody else. You're creating that separation for yourself away from your family. And because you're tired, because you've gone through so much in that day, instead of like shifting your mindset from when you get out of work to, okay, now I get to come home and be the husband, and I get to be father, whatever it may be. And
pointing out another way that our marriage in a first responder relationship is quite different than any other is that we actually have to put in the work to protect our marriage before it reaches the breaking point that's caused by the vulnerability of that career choice. And the first is that we need to have honest conversations about what the job is actually costing in the relationship. And when you have that conversation together, you can name it together, and it's the first step to be able to address it.
Yeah, when you have those conversations, you're able to bring you're doing that as a partnership. As you speak your vows when you get married, and your spouse is your best friend, and you're incorporating the love and that response to one another, instead of trying to go off on your own little island and separate yourself from that relationship, because that starts getting lonely out there.
Another thing that has helped us significantly is to create non-negotiable connection rituals that's going to survive the shift schedule. And even when you were working graveyards, and I still woke up at 3 or 4 in the morning, which we do now, thankfully with you on a regular schedule, is having coffee time together. So there would be times where you would wake up at whatever time in the afternoon, and then maybe I'll have a cup of coffee. And if not, maybe I'll just sit there and, just sit with you and still have that shared time together.
Yeah. And it's having those, and it could be silent moments. It could be talkative moments. It could be Ashley, when I woke up, she would give me almost a briefing from what's happened throughout the day. And I loved that. And she's not necessarily always drinking that coffee with me, but she's incorporating me. Hey, this is what you missed while you're sleeping. And having that connection and building that, it means more than you'll ever recognize. And
I think too that one of the most important things, and one of the biggest ailments that I see in first responder marriages, is that you must make sure that that non-responder spouse has their own thing going on. They cannot just be sitting there at home waiting on you and being so self-consumed with all things you and your career. That is one of the most unhealthy things that I see in a first responder relationship. And that could mean that she has to, or he has to, get their own hobby, or have their own friends outside of the workplace, or have their own side hustle. And it can't be just her at home with the kids and waiting on you, and then everything being all about you and your career. That is incredibly detrimental. And one thing that I would say is probably one of the leading causes to divorce in a first responder marriage. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.